I think when you're really actively listening to somebody and there's no distractions, it's not even that the imagination comes into play, but it can be even more impactful, I find.
Hi friend, I'm Lauren Jean. I'm a thinker, babbler, lover of stories and founder of Thinking of Me. Welcome to our first season of Women Only Speakers, where we talk all things empowerment, success, relationships, and above all else, self. I hope you might find a new thread of thought as you listen.
Hello. Today we have Róisín Casey on the Thinking of Me podcast. And Róisín, I'm really grateful that we're able to do this. We were having a little bit of tech difficulty right before we came on, and what I'm learning in this process is definitely all the things that you don't want to happen are definitely going to happen. And maybe you might even find a way to chat about that today too. But Róisín is someone I'm very grateful to have only recently met, and as I said before we came on, we can pretend like we're in the sauna because that's really where we bumped into each other. And I'm excited about seeing another culture gal in Dublin. So yeah, Róisín, if you want to introduce yourself or kind of share anything about how's Dublin treating you, what's life like, and so on.
Hi. So yes, we met in the sauna. It was lovely. I'm Róisín. I'm a psychiatric nurse. I came up from Kerry to work in Dublin about 2 years ago, and ever since then I've just been getting to know the city, and it's a new experience. And I suppose it was a new experience again that I got to know you, Lauren. You know, that's me. I'm delighted to have met you also. I think it's great to have this opportunity as well to do this today. So yeah, it's lovely.
100%. Yeah, and thanks for coming on, as I say. So what we're going to do today is something a little different. So for our friends listening, I know that you get to listen, and I know I've shared in other episodes where sometimes where all we're doing is kind of focusing on one thing. It helps bring about new ideas, new thoughts. So today we're both going to record this episode without camera on and without kind of seeing each other. And I think really listening, and Róisín, I'm curious as to your thoughts on this. I think when you're really actively listening to somebody and there's no distractions, that's even, it's not even that the imagination comes into play, but it can be even more impactful, I find. So I'm going to throw off my camera, Róisín, alongside you. And yeah, I suppose, what do you think of that? Or have you kind of had any experience in life like that where maybe it's through podcasts or stories that kind of jump out at you?
I would. I think always by listening to podcasts, I think the message is most impactful when you're just listening to it. And I do think visual is a great form of media to get your message across to people. But I think the whole thing about a podcast is, and if you're listening to somebody's story, and if it's the one format that you're seeing it, if you're hearing it, you tend to listen more. I think you zone in more on what the person's saying. So no, I definitely would agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah, I hear you. And what's kind of coming up for me is, I know when I started with my coach originally first, and it was all fitness orientated, but I actually started that whole journey kind of between lockdowns, and then we're in the second lockdown. And when you'd have those kind of check-in calls and you'd be just on the phone with each other, and really kind of then able to, you weren't conscious about really so much what you're sharing as much as you would when you're sitting across from somebody, do you know? And you really kind of open up in a way. Róisín, we're of a similar age, similar era and all that kind of thing with school. So I know my best friend and I, the same kind of thing. We'd only have seen each other like from one end of the day to the other, and then the phone would ring as soon as I'd be in home off the bus, and it would be Alana, and she'd go, "Any news?" And I'm like, "No, I just got the bus home." Would you have had those kind of phone call chats in that, or what was things like for you in kind of secondary school?
It would have been. I suppose, like, I do think phone calls are a great way of getting in contact with each other. Maybe in secondary school, but more so, I'd say over lockdown when I was away. From college, when I was away for college for long periods of time, or when I was living away from home, to stay in contact with your family or your friendship groups, because at the time I would have been living in a different county, and with the lockdown measures and everything to do with that, my friends were in a different county to me. So I suppose hearing that voice, hearing the tone of somebody that's familiar to you, it's so important. It definitely is, to have that contact with other people.
For definite. And like, I know when during lockdown, I was living in Dublin.
Yeah.
I just moved up for the second lockdown, before the second lockdown as such, the one in January 21. Yeah. And that's where social media for me became like my main form of connection, really, because I was living on my own and in the plant pot and that here. And like, it was grand in the sense that, yeah, you can like tip along, do your thing. But, you know, when you're living by yourself, it can get lonely at the best of times, but definitely in lockdown. So social media really became a good anchor for me that way. You said you were living away from your friends in that, Róisín. What was that like? And I suppose, sorry, go on.
No, go on. It was difficult. It was very difficult, I think, during lockdown. And I was living, so at the time I would have been living, we had just moved to Kerry from Cork. It was in the middle of lockdown. All my friends are living in Cork. And then as well, I moved because I was doing the nursing, and to do with the pandemic, there was such a fear over COVID at the time when I was a student nurse, and I moved out of home for the year because I did not want to move into student accommodation. I was working on the wards as part of my placement, and the amount of fear there was over COVID, and I was terrified about bringing it back in home to my parents. So I moved out, and like, even just those phone calls to stay in touch with my family, my mom, my dad, you know, it was vital because, you know, you're moved out into unfamiliar environment, you're quite isolated. Or even when I moved back to Kerry at the start, it might be a different county, and I know they're next to each other, but when you we're not really allowed to go up visiting, and when the restrictions were in place, without having to talk to my friends, you're there. We were doing college from home, and you're not really seeing people. And without those lifelines to other people, I think it would have felt very lost. You can do your walk, you can do your exercise, you can spend your time in nature, but human connection is what it's about at the end of the day. And I think 100%, like looking at the person holistically, that's one of the main things that can keep us going.
For definite, Róisín. And like, I've seen that at different stages and everything, and now as well, but like where you don't have that connection and you nearly do anything to get it. You know, I would say, and it's kind of said anyway, but like for women especially, we do need that connection. And it is important to not just be part of the pack, but know that you kind of have a bit of a space within the community, I suppose. And what do you find being in Dublin like, ever since you moved up? Have you ever had that kind of imposter culture outside Dublin kind of thing, or what, like that, those new connections, or kind of change from home up here, like for you?
Oh yes, 100%. Like when I moved up initially, I just moved up to Dublin. It was very much of a whim. I don't know, I was finishing my last year in college. I didn't really know what, like I obviously knew what I wanted to do. I had done my training between Cork and Kerry and Waterford for the nursing. And I was like, I just want to really try something different. And it all kind of came from, let's just say, I just got an email into my college emails, and I saw where to go for Dublin. So I went to Dublin. At the time, I found it difficult. I had to start to find accommodation. I didn't know anyone up here. At the time, I didn't actually know anyone up here. So even when I came up here, I was very much by myself. I had the difficulties finding accommodation. None of my class came up to work where I'm working, and it was just such a period of change because I had only moved recently to Kerry, and then I was moving again to Dublin. That I said I want to try something new. So I came up here. I ended up living with, because I had accommodation sorted, it fell through. It was all very stressful at the start. Then I moved in with my sister's partner's aunt, was living with them for a bit. Then I was trying to find accommodation, found accommodation, and I moved in. I moved in with a lovely girl, Kira, at the time. and we started to become friends. And honestly, if it wasn't for Anne, the lady I moved in with initially, who put me up when I first started the job because I did not have anywhere to live otherwise, or if it wasn't for Kira, I would have been completely lost moving up here. You know, your working shift, you don't really know anyone. I joined the gym to get to know people, to have somebody social connection, because Kira was working during the day, and we did meet up and we'd do our walks. But other than that, you know, you've a lot of time off with shift, and you've these long days to fill, and without some type of a plan, or like, I think it's lovely, the idea of going into town, walking around, doing shopping all day, but it gets boring after a while. You know, you want to meet people, you know, you need something to have in your days off. And I just felt very lonely. I actually did. Like a lot of people I would have worked with, they would have had people from their year in college maybe moving up with them, or they would have had friends up in Dublin, which is great. And it just wasn't my situation that I did have that. And Kerry is like, I don't know, 4 hours away to drive, so I couldn't go home all the time either. So yeah, I did feel really lonely at the start, and it was a struggle to try and get accustomed to Dublin. I felt very isolated. Again, if it wasn't for Kira and Anne, I would have been completely lost up here. And the people that I work with on the ward that I was on, they were excellent. They were so kind. Like, you know, it made going into work enjoyable. And that's a huge thing, I think.
For definite. No, for definite.
Yeah.
And Róisín, like, thanks for saying that, because it is a lonely process.
It is,
like, moving anywhere.
Yeah.
And particularly when, like, you're moving city side and everything. And I think that's so true that, like, yeah, you can go romanticize the idea that, oh yeah, I'll be in the city and I'll go shopping and, you know, I'll have a coffee here and I'll do that there. Yeah. Then at the end of the day, you know, you need something or someone, really, as you say. And with the psych nurse and Róisín and all that, with lockdown and everything else, I had the fear of God in me as well, because I remember, like, that February 2020, and I was teaching in a school in Dublin at the time. Now, I was still commuting, I was living at home, and there's a whole other story there. I was going to travel that 2019-2020 year, and just kind of by the grace of everything, I was home when lockdown came. But even before, like, officially the schools are closed, it was the thing of, God, I'm the one in Dublin, and if anything comes into the house, and, like, the madness, like, I was bleaching the light switches and the whole lot, you know, because I was so paranoid that I'd be the one to bring it home into my grandparents and everything else. So I suppose between the lockdown and, as you say, making that conscious choice to kind of remove yourself from your family, and then also, you know, follow the job up to Dublin even when you didn't have kind of some of your college friends, what is it that kind of attracted you to the work, or why is the work so, like, important for you, Róisín, that all those other things kind of fall back because you know what you're doing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I think it was a thing as well. I hear what you're saying. I think it was what spurred me on was the fact I wanted to work I have been working in a great setting in Kerry, but I wanted to work in a place where I could be exposed to, like, all the different, like, let's just say, subspecialities that there is under mental health, because there's so much to it. You know what I mean? There's so much to it. There's so many different areas, you know, like, in mental health as an umbrella term. And I wanted to just develop my knowledge in those areas. Like, you know, it's so much. It's like, you have your child and adolescent, you have your acute psychiatry, you have addictions, you have eating disorders. You know, there's so much other than what you think of the stereotypical things to do with mental health. And I think I just wanted to experience that, to work in that area. Like, I do love my job, you know, as with anything, of course, we're all going to have days where we find it difficult. It's not everything is going to be easy or enjoyable 100% of the time, but I just felt like I just wanted to develop my experience in that area and be exposed to new things and to keep learning. You know, I find that's a lot of the thing. Yes, change is scary, and let's face it, and learning can be very overwhelming at times. Like I remember when I started in the job where I am, yes, I loved it, but I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know what I mean? I was like, you have such imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, I need to push through this. There's always going to be some level of difficulty. And it's just, you can either take it on or you can shy away from it. And I just said, no, this is what I just want to push myself here and go up and try something new. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Or, you know, but if I do like it, at least you had the opportunity to do it because you weren't afraid to take a chance, you know?
100%. 100%, Róisín. I love that. I love that, like, I love that mindset, and I love kind of what you said there, that if at the end of the day, if you don't, it's on you, you know, and if, and I like, I'd be that way as well. It's the kind of thing where at least if it didn't work out, it's on me. I tried it, you know, I, as you say, push through, and the kind of thing there where there's a lot of people and our friends listening, I think would definitely resonate with those kind of, you know, that's scary, but do it anyway, but maybe are kind of scared to do it and kind of some of the consequences of getting it wrong. Yeah. I don't know about you, Róisín. I would very much have grown up as being, and still can be, and it's something I'm consciously aware of, like shaking off, that kind of perfectionist, or God, I have to get it right all the time. Do you find that comes up for you, or have you always been okay with kind of maybe taking a chance and seeing if it lands or not?
I suppose there's always that, based from what you're saying there, there's always going to be that perfectionist element, and I think like sometimes I would have struggled with it. When I was doing my training, I wanted everything to be 100% perfect all the time, and I think it was right at that given moment. I still want everything, like I still want to do my job to the best of my ability and everything to do with that. But I think it boils back to, you're just going to have to accept that it's one of those things. If you want everything to be perfect all the time, nothing will ever be perfect all the time. You know, there's only so much you can control. And I think it was like, I was kind of that way. And I ended up, when I finished my training, I found I was burnt out because, you know, you're doing the best you can. You're giving everything your all, which is great. But then if something minor goes wrong, you feel like you're incredibly upset, or you've a major response to a minor thing, you know? And
you're also overstimulated at that stage.
So I kind of just, like, I'm kind of leaned off that a bit now. I think something's to do with life, it can just refocus you. And, you know, it's one of those things, I suppose experiences over the years as well, you know, there has been things, you know, like I always wanted everything to be perfect. And I think my mother would have always been the same. I would have gotten that from my mom. Like, she's an excellent role model. And, you know, she would have always been like that. And then recently enough, in the past few years, she became sick, and that kind of just made me think about things as well, because you can't, she always wanted everything to be perfect all the time, and that takes an impact on you as an individual, be it stress, be it, you know, stress is one of the biggest things that you have to watch. And I think, like, putting all that stress on yourself is not good for you. It's not good for you as an individual. You're never going to be able to be in a place that you're content with where you're at, what you have achieved, where you are at in regard to your relationships with other people. It's just unachievable. So I think that kind of refocused me a bit.
I love that, Róisín, and sorry that your mum has been sick, and I resonate with that a lot, because my granny, like, we've kind of the trickle down effect. My granny's the best woman in the world for getting things done, and always had been, and only for her, you know, all that kind of thing in life with myself and my sister and that kind of thing as well. And same with Mum. I would have shared that before, but for friends listening as well, like, that perfectionist only holes for so long until something can't stay perfect all the time. You know, I love what you said there, like when you look at relationships and work and all that kind of thing, like there's always a gap in life. You know, as soon as you get one thing sorted, something else happens. You know, it's kind of like nearly. As soon as you get one thing kind of going, something else happens. And Róisín, how do you find, like, I know I see things differently. Every time I go home, I can kind of see a little bit of myself differently. I can see a little bit of that kind of thing of where some of those feelings, I suppose, a perfectionist kind of would have come from. I can kind of notice them a bit more now. Yeah. After, between work, my line of work, and then living in Dublin, and as I say, just kind of growing up as well, like growing up with age. Yeah. I see something different nearly every time I'm home. So, yeah, like, what do you think is maybe the biggest change you've noticed in how you kind of approach home nearly ever since moving out between college and Dublin and everything else? Or have you noticed it?
As in, like, let's just say with regards relationships and everything.
Yeah, and even that kind of thing of, like, since your mum has been sick, or since you kind of started letting go some of that perfectionist as such. And realising that there is no such thing as perfection, you know.
No, I hear what you're saying. I think, do you know what, I think one of the biggest giveaways or takeaways that I would have gotten, let's just say, from living away from home, or living away from home, moving up here, living away from college, like all the past couple of years, is like the most important thing. You can get somebody the most expensive present in the world. Wow, that's brilliant. You know, you could spend, I don't know, over €1,000 on an iPhone. You give that to that person. It's a lovely present, but one of the most important things for me now, even something as simple as if it's my mom's birthday, it's my dad's birthday, I want to do an experience with them, because like I saw a quote recently enough, and it said to never, I'm basically summarising it now because I'm so bad at remembering things word for word, but one of the things so the quote was basically that we as an individual, we may be living our lives, but not to forget that our parents are living theirs as well. And I think that's one of the things that we forget. We get so into the moment. Like, for years I was always away from home, either working or studying, and living away. But it's about having that quality time when you do go home. You know, like you know, how would I put it? Yes, let's say if it's a birthday, you get them a present. Yes, you've ticked off the box, but have you spent time with that person? That's quality time. You know, because that's not to be forgotten. You know, like, and I think when I go, because I'm away here in Dublin, when I do go home, I'm more present. Because, you know, like, yes, with mom being sick, you can always try your best, but you can't be like 100% to somebody all of the time. So that when you do come home and that time is there, you can do your absolute best, have quality time with them, do the nice things, and that's so important. And just like what you were saying back there, connectivity as well, like phone calls. That's what I've learned, to make use of those type of things when I go home, to be present. Just because you're away from somewhere doesn't mean you can't have a quality relationship with an individual. You can still have all that, but it's just your priorities, I think, at the end of the day. I think so.
No, for definite, Róisín, for definite. And like that stirs up a lot in me, and I'm kind of thinking if my mum or my granny or my sister or anyone at home is listening to this, I've been the, like, biggest culprit of that, of being busy and not being able to answer the phone. And when I'd be home, it would be kind of my agenda of, well, I need to get this done while I'm here, you know. And I think especially friends listening, as we're over the Christmas season and so on, Gan would always say, and mom that all they want for Christmas is peace, and I think now the older we get, kind of completely can understand that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Why they would say that to us.
Yeah.
I've the same, traveling summers and living up in Dublin and rounding about, and always on the go kind of thing. That it really is the silly little things of being at the fire and actually getting to hear a story and share a story. That they were always big in our house. And as you say, just being present, Róisín.
Yeah.
I'm curious. We met in the sauna.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day, no less.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Would you say, and I'm asking all our guests this, would you say you have a good stress management plan, Róisín, or how do you manage stress? What is it that you do?
I suppose in terms of stress management, I'll admit I do have a plan. My plan is usually, this sounds so stereotypical, but do you know what my plan is? Sometimes it's as simple as getting time outside, going for a walk, going to a gym class, going to a sauna, getting an incredibly overpriced coffee, because sometimes it's the way, or sometimes even just a simple, it really is, I'm from Kerry, the outdoors are such a significant part of where I'm from, and I think if you could just have that time outdoors, when I found over the past few years, if I felt things were overwhelming me, when I moved up to Dublin, again, drawing it back to that, I was missing home so much. I was finding work stressful because I was settling into a new job. I didn't really know anyone. I felt so alone, and I just felt very overwhelmed at times. And it definitely, you start feeling stressed, you start feeling anxious, you'd be in your own head, ruminating about things so much. And you know what it is that used to focus me was going to the gym or going out for a walk, putting on my headphones and just having some time. There's something about it, you know what I mean?
100%.
You could try and just focus in on the world around you, you know what I mean? It's about drawing it back, everything can be managed, but sometimes in that moment it feels like it can't. Then maybe you need to take a step back. That's what I would do. But sometimes it's not 100% perfect all the time. Of course you get overwhelmed. There's definitely times I would have gotten overwhelmed over the last few years, and you feel like things are completely out of reach and unattainable, I suppose. But then just take my moment, have my cry, or just feel sorry for myself for a second, and then get back to it. Journaling as well. I think journaling is a great way of recognising, something I push, I would say, in work. And it's one of the most overlooked things, because sometimes if you put something down on paper, it might seem unattainable, but you're able to look at it, look at what it is in front of you, see if you're looking at it with an overly pessimistic viewpoint, and then actually rationalise, say, okay, this is what's happening, this is what I can do, this is what I can control, this is what I can't control. And I just find that very beneficial, to be honest.
For definite, and for our friends listening, if you're not listening to this with your earphones in and out on a walk, go out on a walk.
Yeah,
go out on a walk. That changed things for me. Two things that changed for me. One was the pen and paper, and I say that so openly. And Róisín, without a shadow of a lie, I would be one of your patients if I hadn't found the pen and paper. And I'm really not exaggerating that. It saved me and it changed me for definite, because as you say, there's something powerful about it coming from your own hand, that it just physically coming from your writing, and the act of writing, we know neurologically, does wire things in for us and so on. So when you see something come out and you go, God, is that actually what I'm thinking? Then it brings about maybe a bit of a change and that. So I think our stress plans are quite similar.
It's important though to have it. I think it's one of the simplest things that we can do to have in our it's a wellness toolkit, really, is how I put it. And I think if we don't have that, you can't control a lot in life, but one of the things you can control is how you react and the impact it has on you. And I think if you can manage your stress, it's one of the hardest things to do, but it's one of those things that, look, it's going to benefit you in the long run. Like, the link between so many illnesses and stress is commonly known, and even for yourself as an individual, your quality of life, if you can just control your stress to some degree, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Limit it. Do your bit of yoga, even bit of breath work. Very overlooked. There's breath work apps or options and so many watches. Like,
I know Pat Simply does a free workshop. I think it's of a Thursday. I've been to one or two.
Brilliant.
He's been great at promoting those as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah.
Sorry,
it's so important. Jeez, no. Brilliant.
Yeah, as you say, because it is just having your toolkit, because it's a natural part of life, and when you're pushing through something, you know, you're going to be stressed in, as you mentioned there, you know, making a change, moving out, trying something different that other people aren't doing, and pursuing learning, you know. And I love how you said that, Róisín, that like the ability to want to keep learning, to figure it out, to be better, do better, and be okay, you know, and know that I can manage my stress. Like, any of the listeners are doing that or wanting to do that, and that's what I hope it brings about some new thoughts, because that's what changed the game for me. And I've loved this, Róisín.
Yeah, it's great. It's been lovely. So nice.
And as I say, you really make a difference. Made it like, and that day wasn't expecting to meet you, and then, you know, serendipity had us in the same place again. And kind of having that new connection. I love having new connections anyway. People would be my thing, and as I say, it's just always good to have another country gal around. So what would you say is kind of something you're working on at the minute, Róisín, or what's kind of on the cards for you? Or are you just kind of content now at the moment? Have you anything big coming up in terms of work or relationships or otherwise? What is your looking forward to thing? Oh,
hi. I think we disconnected there for a second.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We can always crop and edit. There's no panic.
That's perfect. What were you saying there? Sorry, you were saying something about working on.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Róisín, what your next thing is. Is there something you're looking forward to? What's next on the cards? What's what's life like in the next 6 months for Róisín?
Do you know what? Do you know what I'm looking forward to? I think just getting into, because I was travelling a bit the last few months and just being away. I think having the Christmas with family and getting into a routine with just looking after myself. I think it's one of those things, you know, just simple things like going to the sauna, going to the gym, having time outdoors, meeting friends, getting to know new people like yourself. That's what I'm looking forward to. I think if you're always on to the next big thing, you're like the holiday that's coming up, or I don't know, something incredibly big, lavish, I think you're never truly going to be happy. I think you're always going to be on a countdown. So I think one of the things that are just the normal everyday life, something as simple as, I think it sounds mad, but honest to God, I think even like when I know I'm going to have a nice coffee the next day, it's things like that that make me that I look forward to, that I spend time. They're the most important things, I think. 100%. That's what I'm looking forward to.
For definite. I love that, Róisín, because my granddad would always say, like, settle yourself. And I never knew what it meant, and I'm really like learning that. It's just go through the day to day as well as the next thing, because the next thing comes. And I woke up one of the days 4 years ago where it was like, well, what's the next thing? And I didn't know what the next thing was. And the next thing for me was just learning to be in the day. And I love that now with the Christmas. So I hope you have a lovely Christmas, Róisín, with your family.
You too.
Friends listening, I hope maybe can take something away there from that being present and everything else. And sure, we'll be in the sauna soon.
Yeah, definitely, that'll be lovely.
And have that coffee.
Yes, lovely. The simple things.
Róisín, thank you so much. It is the simple things.
Thanks very much. That was lovely. And thank you for having me.
Not at all.
Thanks, friend, for listening to the Thinking of Me podcast. I hope you found something within our story today that lands for you. You can keep up with us on Thinking of Me blog, Thinking of Me coaching, and Lauren Jean on socials. go to thinkingofmecoaching.com/checklist for your checklist for self-fulfillment. Until our next chat, talk soon, my friend.